Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Lee Cantor here, broadcasting live from ATDC in beautiful Midtown, Georgia, Atlanta. And I got with us a return guest, Araz Feyzi, and he is with Syfer. Welcome, Araz.
Thank you for having me.
Well, before we get too far into things, talk about Syfer. What are you guys up to? I know you've been on the show recently, but let's get a quick update.
So as we talked before, the big problem that we have today is that we have a lot of connected devices, 5 on average per person. An average user doesn't know how to go about protecting their life, and you have your children who are internet connected, your home is smart. And we realize that in order for a person or a small business to protect themselves against most of the cyber threats, they have to go out and buy a number of products, understand technology. We realized that just doesn't make sense. So let's make a product that's very easy to use, affordable, and also it's comprehensive. And that's Syfer. We started shipping the product a couple of months ago. We have over 3,000 customers today in 75 countries. So we have presence on 4 continents. And we just launched on Amazon a few weeks ago as a part of their Launchpad program. And, we're working on making sure that Syfer protects everybody around the globe.
Now, is it geared towards the consumer market or the commercial market?
So today we're distributing Syfer directly to consumers. However, we have been working on some more scalable channels such as managed service providers and also internet service providers to distribute Syfer to more customers. The whole goal is that, think about clean water. When imagine that the water that came through your main to your door brought you untreated water. And then you, as a consumer, have to figure out how to protect your family against contaminants in there. That just doesn't make sense. It sounds ridiculous in this day and age. We believe that it's the same concept with the internet. We expect my parents, who are 70-some years old, to open an email and look at that link and say, hey, that is not my bank. That is actually a phishing attack trying to take my money away. That we believe that the cybersecurity is a shared responsibility between the consumer, obviously, and also the internet provider, because they're experts. So we're talking to our internet providers. We're providing them with the technology that they can use to provide a safe internet experience to their customer. That technology is Syfer.
And then, so what's your backstory? How did you get into this line of work?
I've been a geek since middle school. I've been programming since middle school. I have a degree in engineering. I have a graduate degree in information systems, and I've spent my career in automating things and analytics. And my co-founder, who's my friend from middle school, he has deep experience in cybersecurity. He has over 10 years of experience in enterprise cybersecurity. We joined forces together to start this company, for a good reason, because we come from a background where privacy is not just the right that you have in the country that you live. So when we believe that it's a fundamental right, and we want to bring that to people. We want everybody to be able to have the privacy and security they want, and they shouldn't have to stay unprotected because they just don't have the knowledge. So we joined forces and we decided to do this thing together.
And then now, for the consumer standpoint, like you mentioned, there's multiple devices. And there could be multiple generations living in the same home. And each of those people have specific challenges into themselves in terms of how sophisticated they are in their knowledge about computers and computing. Like, the adult in the family might know that that's not my bank. That is somebody trying to trick me. But my parents may not know that, or my kid might see some flashing thing and think, oh, that's cool. Let me jump all over that. That seems like something I should click on. And so Syfer is going to come in there and kind of protect the family from themselves.
Yeah, great point. So that's the reality, right? So we have connected devices that are not people. They're just machines that are connected to internet, IoT. Then
right, I'm talking to my Alexa, right?
Exactly.
And that brings challenges. And now my refrigerator is connected to things, or my stove. Like, all these things are now connected in ways, and hackers can come in and they can, right? Can't they go and take my camera out of some device, and now they're looking at me when I'm not aware of it? Like, there's all kinds of danger involved with all this convenience that these devices are providing me.
That's absolutely correct. So, you have devices that are internet connected. You have people who live and they have different needs. So we understand that different devices and different connected devices in the home have different needs. As a result, what you can do is with Syfer is that we identify all the devices in the home, and then you as an admin of the home network, you say, okay, so these are all the IoT devices. Categorize them together and tell Syfer these are basically my IoT devices, internet connected devices. These 3 devices belong to my daughter, who's 9 years old, and we understand what that person's needs are. And then these 5 devices belong to me, and we can apply policies accordingly. Mm-hmm. So we know that the policy that needs to be applied for the kid is different from the internet connected devices, IoT, and all that's different from an adult who's working from home.
So now when you developed the business, was it always going after the consumer market first? Was that your kind of initial point of entry, and then go to these kind of larger ISPs? And because like you said, I don't have to have a filter for my sink and a different filter for my hose and a different, the water company just puts a filter and it does the job.
Yeah. The analogy I use is that we believe that Syfer for an internet provider is like water treatment facility vendor or product to a municipality.
Right.
So we provide a technology as an internet provider. You don't really have to reinvent that wheel because, there are over 1,000 ISPs in the US alone. Most people don't know that, but we usually know the top 5 because we live in, metro areas, and those are the ones that are present there. But just in rural areas, there are more than 400 to 600 ISPs that are serving 60% of Americans. So we built this technology and we wanted to deploy it at scale. But
right.
We understood that as a startup, you can't really build a product, go out there and start selling it to ISPs. So we had a plan that we've been executing against for the past 2.5 years. Step 1 was to create a product, sell it to consumers, establish our brand, show that we can do what we say we do, which we've accomplished. We have almost, we're hoping to close $1 million this year by the end of the year. And then we're on Amazon and we're on multiple outlets. So step number 2 was to, after proving the brand, after establishing the brand, start selling through more scalable channels, which that's what we're actively doing. We have a couple of proof of concept deals running with a couple of ISPs in the US. We're hoping to close one of them by the end of the year. We also have been working with some international managed service providers to provide it through them. Now, step 3, which is our plan for 2020, is to release our software-only backend integration, which is targeting larger ISPs. You can think of it as, AT&T home service or even, wireless services as well.
Now, the device that you're selling to the consumers, is it just something that kind of plugs in before my router or after my router, and then it's taking care of my house specifically?
Yeah, so we call it Syfer Gateway. It's a small device that sits on your gateway, so on the path of your traffic in line, which can be between your modem and router. Mm-hmm. So you have your modem that comes from the ISP, then you plug in Syfer, and then you have your router. And all of your traffic goes through it, and Syfer handles all of your traffic and protects all.
And then it doesn't impact the speed or anything?
Unless you have a fiber gigabit service, you won't notice any slowdowns. We do have a new product coming out early next year. We call it Syfer Pro. That one is a much faster device that's designed to serve larger companies plus users who have gigabit service.
Mm-hmm. Now, how has your involvement with the ATDC been? Have they been helpful in helping you grow your business?
This is something I say everywhere I go, is that ATDC is one of the best things that has happened to our company in Georgia. It's a fantastic organization. We've been a member for a couple of years now. We're an Accelerate member right now. We don't have offices here just because of the commute, but I'm always here every week. Any corporate that we want to speak with, any Fortune 500, it's a phone call away. If I have any kind of questions regarding whatever you name it, sales, marketing, I can get hooked up with an advisor here in a few days and get my questions answered. It's one of the best resources we have in the state of Georgia.
Now, you mentioned that, like when you're pursuing these big corporations, where it's hard, it's a complex thing to explain. You got to get to the right person. You said that you're one phone call away. Can you talk specifically about, you don't have to name the company name, but how would ATDC help you facilitate that conversation with somebody that's important to you in one of these larger organizations?
So each company has a mentor here. Let's say I want to talk to company X and I want to reach their technology department and talk to them about Syfer or a partnership or getting access to their lab. I give a call or send an email to my mentor. I usually get an answer really quickly saying, hey, it's not my thing, but you're going to talk to this other lady or gentleman, and then let's go ahead and schedule a meeting. We schedule a meeting. I sit down with them, explain my needs, and before I know it, there's an introduction in my mailbox.
And then that person takes your call.
Absolutely. They always pick up the phone. They always respond to the email. The warm intros that I've received from ATDC, whether it's a VC firm, whether it is an advisor, whether it's a corporate, they have been the ones that have been really well received.
Now, talk about, you recently took part from a roadshow tour around, I believe, the Northeast New York, Boston area, where that was ATDC organized a trip for some of the startups here and made some introductions. Or why don't you tell us about what occurred in that trip?
One of the great things that ATDC does is, I believe it's twice a year, they plan this roadshow, the fundraising roadshow. They basically pick 10 to 12 companies, 10 to 14 companies from the state of Georgia that are raising funds. You apply and you get interviewed, and then there's a selection committee. And if you're selected, you basically go on this trip. This trip was to Northeast New York and Boston, and ATDC does a fantastic job in orchestrating this trip. What happens is you have sponsoring companies that host you for lunch and dinner. They bring their venture capital circle. Also, there's a pitch session in every city that we go to, where hundreds of VCs are invited. Usually, for example, on this trip, I think we had somewhere between 50 and 100 VCs that showed up to listen to our pitches. Yeah. And then every company gets 4 minutes to go on stage and pitch. These VCs get a copy of the participating company's background. So they have the option to go ahead and schedule one-on-one meetings before and after the pitch session. I believe I had somewhere close to 8 to 10 one-on-one sessions that VCs scheduled with me to talk about Syfer. And obviously there's a social event afterwards that we can hang out with the ISPs and with the VCs and kind of discuss our financial needs.
Now, for something like that, how much time does that save you? Like if you were to try to do that without ATDC's help, can you just guesstimate how much energy, time, resources, or if it would even be possible? Look,
the process that you have to go through is that you have to research, find the right firm that fits your needs from a stage perspective and industry's perspective. Find someone who knows them, get the intro, get something on the calendar. It takes weeks to have a quality meeting with a good VC firm, and ATDC does that, and then they do that, and all of a sudden you have 50 high quality VCs sitting in the room with you, listening to your pitch
and wanting to learn more. As opposed to you trying to say, hey, pick me. Yeah. They've already picked you.
Yep. They sit there and then, they listen to you, and then they schedule meetings with you. You speak with them. And I came back with countless follow-up meetings.
Right. And those are connections that you can use later on. You've already built a relationship with them. That's a gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. So, and startup doesn't just, if you're raising funds now, but you know that you'll probably be raising funds in the future. And then these investments don't happen overnight. Usually 4 to 6 months goes into the process. And obviously if you have a pre-existing relationship with a VC, if they've been tracking you, seeing their progress, you have a much better chance of raising funds. So for example, we had really high quality VCs, like one that comes to mind right now is Battery Ventures. Battery Ventures is there. We're too early for them now, but we sat down, we spoke, and we're going to stay in touch for future rounds.
Now, for you, in the evolution of this company, it started out as one thing, and now with the Internet of Things kind of permeating all these different areas in terms of now cars and mobile, everything it's touching everything now. Does that require you to now kind of have a more robust solution that can play in all those different arenas?
So when it comes to connectivity, everything is changing. Today, we have on average 5 connected devices per person. The forecast is that in the next 10 years, we will have 20 connected devices per person. We might think it's crazy, but think about light bulbs, doors, windows, thermostats. Everything will be connected. So that's changing. Plus, the needs are changing. But, there was no cryptocurrency, 10, 20 years ago. So There were scams that would scam your credit card. Today there's cryptocurrency, so the type of the threat has changed. So it's evolving. That's why our motto is safer with Syfer. What that means is all you need to know that Syfer will protect you. We will evolve as threats evolve, and we will evolve as your needs evolve. So all you need to know is that we're there. Syfer is there. Syfer brand is there to protect you. As long as you have Syfer, we'll make sure that you're protected against the most common threats.
So now, if you could kind of look into your crystal ball, you mentioned going from 5 to 20 connected devices. It's going to be everywhere. Like everything's going to be connected at some point, right?
Yeah. We walk everywhere we walk. Our picture is in some sort of a camera. We have a watch or cell phone that's connected. Cars are connected now, and soon shoes and clothes will be connected.
Right, but like lights, the traffic lights are connected. If cars are connected, everything, it can be learning and adjusting based on all that data. So all that data obviously needs to be protected, because if there's data out there, then anybody can tap into it if they're clever enough. Right.
It's a saying, data is the new gold. For a couple of things that are expensive resources. One, obviously the processing power. So wherever you have a connected device, there's a processing power there. So you always have people who are out there trying to hire your device to work for them, either to attack someone or to mine cryptocurrency for them, or the list goes on. So everywhere we have a connected device, we have a device that's smart and has processing power and connectivity, needs to be protected.
Now, are you on a clock in terms of like now with 5G kind of rolling out and going to be more and more available, and that's going to just increase the amount of data that's going to be processed? Does that put you kind of on a clock to stay ahead of that, or are you already kind of prepared for that?
Glad you asked. We're actually working with one of the largest telecoms, wireless telecoms, has a lab here in the U.S. I don't think we can mention the name yet, but we've gotten to an agreement with them to start testing Syfer in their 5G lab here in Atlanta metro area, and that's the future. The future of connectivity is 5G, and we want to be there, have a product for that market when it becomes mainstream.
Now, what's your kind of guesstimate of when it's going to become mainstream?
That's a good question. I mean, 5G is still developing, and standards are developing. My guess is that in the next, 4 to 5 years, will be a decent portion of the connectivity in this country.
And then what's it going to mean to the consumer?
It really depends. So it can be anything from, hey, I have much better options in my home to get internet, to it gives developers a lot of options. So when you have cars, now you can actually manage them remotely because you have really high quality, low latency and high bandwidth connectivity. And it's just going to create much more interesting use cases that we can't even think of today.
Right. It's going to be, but this is a leap, right? This isn't going to be like an incremental tweak.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is not an incremental increase. This is a order of magnitude kind of, change.
And then, so you still think we're several years away of kind of full mainstream?
I don't think I'm the right person to comment on this. I believe, yes, it's going to take us a while because now you have cities coming out and having concerns about the drawbacks of deploying 5G. So we have to find the right way to deploy it. We have to find the right standard and technology.
It's one of those gradually then suddenly kind of moments, you think?
Yeah. I think there's going to be some pushback, and then we have to figure this out to do it right.
So now, getting back to ATDC, any advice for a company that's considering kind of jumping on board the ATDC train and getting involved with them? What would you recommend?
Look, I think if you are a new business, a startup, a technology startup here in the state of Georgia, and if you're not already involved with ATDC, you're missing out. This is one of the first thing that I tell people when I, hear that they're working on a venture, and I say, the first thing you need to do is to show up at ATDC, join their, free open events and learn about them. And because it's one of the best resources we have here in the state.
Now, you mentioned that your firm started with a middle school friend, but your wife is also involved it has her own business. Can you talk about that? Because it seems like it's, wherever you hang out, there's a lot of success is following.
Yeah. My wife, actually, she's a scientist for the government. She works for the CDC. Mm-hmm. Obviously she has a lot of experience in in this world. So we try to use her knowledge and expertise as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. And then she has a venture that she's working on?
She does not.
She does not.
No. We've had, one venture, 2 kids, and a full-time job. I think we have enough.
Good stuff. Well, congratulations on all your success, and keep us posted on things, how things evolve. And then if somebody wants to learn more about Syfer, what is the website?
mysyfer.com. MYSYFER.
All right. Araz, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you in a little bit on ATDC Radio.